We had a moderately busy week for this final week before the Christmas holiday. Normally I'd classify this as a really busy week, but as you know, the week before this was almost a record setter. So we had 24 new cases that we processed through the court system this week. Some of them were just complaints that we filed, and others were folks that made initial appearances on complaints that were previously filed. Sadly, 3 of those were partner-family member assault cases. One was a felony assault with a weapon, was a gun. There were 5 new felony drug cases, 3 of which were opiates, a sexual intercourse without consent appearance, 4 DUI cases that were subsequent DUIs, so not just a first or second offense, multiple felony DUIs, 3 assault cases, 4 thefts, including 1 bad check, which I lump in there with a theft because it's essentially taking something that doesn't belong to you. It's just another way to do it. We had an interference with parent-child contact case, a fugitive from justice, a trespass, and a disorderly conduct.
And you also had a wrap-up of a rape trial.
We did.
All right, and what was the outcome in that one?
In that case, Jennifer Clark and Jordan Kilby had been preparing for months for the trial of Jordan Barr, charged with sexual intercourse without consent for sexually assaulting a woman at his apartment, and they were all geared up in the middle of the trial. The 4th day in, and Mr. Barr and his attorney decided that it would be in his best interest to plead guilty. So that was concluded before it ever went to the jury.
So that I understand he pleaded guilty to a slightly lesser charge?
A slightly lesser charge, the felony sexual assault that involves bodily injury. So it's a different classification of the charge, but it carries similar penalties.
All right. Now, one of the things that we had a very, very successful program on Tuesday on Talkback with Sheriff McDermott and Chief Brady and U of M Chief Ludeman and one of the Highway Patrol sergeants who were there with us. And one of the things that I was just, especially in instances such as the carjacking that occurred in the spring, about how seamlessly all of those law enforcement agencies worked together to bring about a successful resolution, to where, thank heavens, no one was injured, and everything turned out well, with the perpetrators finally being captured and now in basically federal custody. So I wanted to ask you, as the county attorney, as you look at all those various agencies, and what is it that makes them work so well together?
Well, we are truly blessed to be in a community where people can put aside their personal differences and agencies can work together in a way that you don't see in some of these other stories and some of the other big cities. We've made a commitment to work on the relationships between our agencies, and so when we're committed to having constant communication and sit-down meetings and face-to-face relationship building is basically sort of the basis on which then we can rely on when we're in an emergency situation. You hear stories about turfism and jurisdictional battles and personality conflicts. And I'm not saying that everything is perfect and always copacetic here, but when push comes to shove and when it really, really matters, like that night and other nights like it, where somebody in our community is in jeopardy, when the child has been hurt, when in a clutch situation, it is pretty remarkable to watch how our partners in the criminal justice system come together and do what we need to do to make sure that the community's needs are taken care of.
Now, Kirsten, is there a deliberate structure about how that cooperation exists, or is it something they just have respect for each other and just choose to work together?
I'd say both. When various situations present themselves, there's protocols and policies about who to contact and who responds, but what's not necessarily written into those policies is what's happening behind the scenes and the backup that shows up. And the other agencies, when Montana Highway Patrol shows up and says, how can we help? Or when the Sheriff's Department comes to help the city, or, they're calling us in the middle of the night and we're working with the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's really kind of a neat thing. And I don't know that you can necessarily put those kinds of actions writing and say this is what our policy is going to be. It's